if everything went well, you should be able to hear me. There should be, I can't see how many people are here. It said there were 5 or so before. Looks like it's working. There's probably about a 5-second delay or so. Any questions that you have, throw up in the chat over there. And if there's any issues with the sound, let me know. But really what I want to do is just go through this standard. You should be able to see the standard on the screen. I'll bring it up. And just explain what it is that's going to happen and what allowances I'm going to make. So the due date is still going to be the original due date, which was the equivalent of week 11. So the end of, it's going to now be the end of the school holidays. There's not that much more work that you have to do. So you've done most of it. You've got all the modeling there, and it's just going to be providing evidence. So what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to provide some of that evidence because it may be at school. And so what you'll need to do is just write to me in a document somewhere when you turn it in, what evidence you've actually done. So what you've done. I've seen it at school. I've seen you go through the modeling and trialing different components, whether it's 3D modeling in particular and blocking out and practicing with that stuff, or whether it's going through tutorials in Godot. I've seen that stuff happen. So I don't doubt that there has been modeling and trialing going on. What you need to do is just to make sure that you are actually providing that evidence for me. You don't need to put your name in the chat. This is public, but there will not be a live one for year 10. I put that in the notification. So it'll just be a video later on today. I may do a live one in the future, but it'll just be a video for today. This is the standard here. So it's only 3 credits. It's not a massive amount of work. And like I said, you've mostly done all of this. So I'm not going to go through that stuff on there. Instead, what I'm going to do is just cover this bit down the bottom, what user experience methodologies are and what the relevant ones are for you. So first one is user research. That's your user stories and turning them into user requirements. So that's what I would take away from that here. A lot of this stuff requires you to have kind of face-to-face communication with people, sit down, watch them interact with the design, and you can't do that. So you won't be able to do that, but you still can focus on user design for interface, interaction design, how the player interacts with the game, how the developer might interact with your 3D models that you're creating, and so on. Visual design, what it looks like, the style that you're going for. So these are some things that you will need to cover and mention. If I go to the actual assessment task, which I've put on the classroom now, so it's under classwork for year 13, and if we go to the stream, it's here, it's right at the top. 91901, use UX methodologies to design an outcome, and then we've got this one here. So there's the achievement standard. This is the link to that video. You can look at it later. This video, you can look at that later. And then in here, we've got apply. Yes, you can. Yeah, so you can get them to test it and so on. But at this stage, just remember that you're not going to have anything to really test or play because the stuff you've done is basic modeling. So yeah, you can get them to interact with any examples that you've made or any tutorials that you've followed and say, yeah, the movement here feels pretty good. It's easy to control. I understand how to play and so on. So that's fine. You can do that. The main thing that I'm not going to be expecting is for you to turn all that stuff in. Okay, so I'm not going to be expecting you to have pages and pages of documentation on all the tutorials that you did. It should be in your Trello board anyway that you've gone through and done that modeling. But if you hadn't got around to doing some of that at school, then that's not a big deal. I have seen it. So this is the assessment task here, and I'm just going to scroll down to the actual task here. I did edit this before, and now it's all back in, but that is not the due date. And so I'll just get rid of that. And I'm just getting rid of this here because I don't think it's necessary for you to investigate. The standard says investigate relevant user experience methodologies, but we've talked about it in class. Okay, we've talked about that in class. We've talked about what things you need to do. And I probably haven't used the term user experience methodologies because I have issues with this standard. I won't go into them now, but I feel that this standard is asking you to do things that are beyond the scope of what most Year 13s are capable of. There's no exemplar for it at the moment, so maybe I'm reading too much into it and thinking it's more complex than it is. But I think I've broken it down pretty well in some of these tasks that I've given you to do. So we've got a 91901, where is the standard here? Nope, I'll come back to that in a sec. I've got like 1,000 things open. Here we go. So you should have done that. Explain the purpose of the design and the requirements of the end users. Okay, that's your user stories and turning them into outcomes. Now, I think I also put my exemplar on here. No, I haven't, but I will. Explain the relevant implications for your design. Now, I've got you to do that, so you should have a document for that somewhere. Generating a range of design ideas. Now, for the people that are developing games, you're going to be going through that game design document. I'm going to put a link to this game design document here on the classroom, as well as my exemplar. This is in the website, so it's currently right down the bottom of the website, which is a link to on the classroom, but I'm just going to throw it on the classroom because it's going to be much easier, I think, now just for you to grab stuff off that classroom. And then choose a design and explain its appropriateness. So this bit here, generate a range of design ideas. This is you're kind of coming up with a few different ideas for user interface, the game controls, the plot, or what kind of art style you're going for, how you might decide what things you're going to build in a 3D model, etc. There's loads of different things here that you can talk about. You don't need to fully develop an idea. So you don't need 3 game design documents. You don't need to do that. But you should come up with a range of design ideas. And those design ideas can be, and I've listed some on the website here, these are some of the design ideas. So flow diagrams, asset mock-ups, prefab objects in Unity or node objects in Godot and explaining how they work. Database models. So there's a few people doing a database. So going through a tutorial, creating a few different examples and seeing what works and what doesn't, what's going to be most like your project that you might be able to build from. What style of graphics you're using. User interface mockups is going to be important for pretty much everyone except those guys that are making 3D art assets or animations. So you're not going to need to worry about user interface mockups for that, but you will need to consider how easy your model is going to be because, as we've discussed, you're either making assets that a developer can use to make a game, or you're making a character that could be used within a game or a game environment. So you'll have to think about how user-friendly it is. So back to here, then the final bit. We haven't really done this part, choose a design and explain its appropriateness. I think that can come under the justification bit. And then model and test your chosen design. So we've done quite a bit of this. From what I've seen, a lot of people have done tutorials. You've done Heartbeats tutorials, you've done other Godot tutorials, you've done Blender tutorials, and you've found ones that are relevant to you. So you need to use this to test or check whether your ideas are feasible, check that end users, understand how your design will function. So that answers your question, Jacob. Test that your design addresses relevant implications. So you talked about it before. You should be kind of thinking about how it's going to do that now. And you need to write up a little bit of this, but not a huge amount because I've seen you do all the modeling. You should have some stuff in your Trello. And effectively use data from modeling and user testing to further develop your chosen design. So say you've done a tutorial in Godot, then you can talk about which bits could you use from that. or you've done some Blender stuff, which bits can you use from that? What you can't do is just go ahead and start building your outcome before you've even planned it. Okay, so anything that we've done this term, you could build on to next term. You can build onto for the final design, but you should be looking at it and not considering it a final thing, not trying to fix it and make it perfect, but to learn from it. Some of you know what I mean by that. I've been quite critical of how you're developing things, especially if you're doing the 3D stuff. There's plenty of ways where you can do that really inefficiently. So that's important that you do that. Use data gained from testing and modeling to improve that design. And this here you may not be able to do. Okay, you can email stuff, but sometimes some of the stuff that you've done is really big in file size, or the person at the other end may not know how to open it. We haven't discussed compiling a Godot game, so someone else at the other end can open it. I don't expect you to be able to send a Blender file to your grandparents and have them open it and give you some feedback on it. So this is something that you may have to be critical yourself, maybe people within your household. If you've got something like Discord or screen sharing tools, you may be able to do that with your friends. But do it to the extent that you're able to do it. I have seen this in class once again, and that's discussed with people about how they can improve their design. Lastly, we haven't done this bit yet. And so this is the bit that you're going to be focusing on in the future, in the next couple of weeks, is justifying it. And I would expect that this would probably be about 400 to 500 words, roughly a page with paragraphs of explaining how the choice of user experience methodologies that you used. So those things that we identified in here, so user interface mockups, database model, asset stuff, all that stuff, prefab objects, node objects, creating a little Godot game, following a tutorial. How has that helped develop your chosen design? That the chosen design is suitable for the purpose and the end users, and how your chosen design might be developed in the future. When you actually come to making it, you're not bound by your plan. You can make changes to it, and that's fine. What you will be bound to do is to make sure you keep track of those changes or any developments that you do in that development document on Trello, but for this, you're not bound by the plan. And this is what you'll need to submit: your design ideas, evidence of how you developed your chosen design. That's the models. You don't need to send me all your Blender files. If you can't get screenshots, just write down what you did. I did this in Blender, I did this in Godot, etc. And then the final design. A lot of this information is going to be bound up in either your game design document, if you're doing, and I'll be finishing this stream soon. It's not, if there's any questions, ask on the right. The game design document, or if you're doing the 3D model, a lot of it will be covered in these documents here. These are on the classroom. Like I said, I will just add the game design document to the classroom in a minute. And these 3 examples here for the 3D modeling. So you probably need a little bit more for that. But once again, if you don't have the screenshots or can't get the screenshots of what you've done in Blender, just write what you've done. In fact, nearly all of this you can do from home, as long as you've got internet access. This may be the only thing that you can't if you've already done it at school. And I'm not expecting you to redo it at home. If you weren't able to get in to get your files, that's fine, that's understandable. But the due date for this is still going to be, I think I've set it up as the 17th, which is the end of the school holidays, or when it was originally due. So down here we've got this week. Well, I've actually set it at the end of the first week of the next term, which will still be off school. So we'll still be off school, and I'll be talking about that some more then. Are there any questions about anything that I've done or talked about today? I know I've kind of laid it on pretty thick for about 15 minutes here, but I haven't been interrupted, so that's good. I haven't had to answer questions from the left side of the room. You know who I mean. if there's no questions, and I know there's like a 5-10 second delay here, so I'll wait a little bit. And so what exactly do we need to write up? Okay, all right, I'll just go through that again. So this task that I've put up here, if you follow these steps, you should have all the evidence that you need. So let's just go through it from the top. First thing here, explain the purpose of the design, the requirements of the end users. That is your user stories. If you just want to paste them out of Trello, that's fine. Just paste them all in a document, that's okay. If you just want to say in a document they're in Trello or take a screenshot, that's fine. Just make it easy for me to mark as well, so I don't have to be going through a whole lot of different documents. Just put it all in one place. Explain the relevant implications for your design. So we've done that in class. I gave you that little task to do, so you should have done that. Generating a range of design ideas. Now this bit here is either the game design document or this stuff. Okay, that is the generating design ideas. So there's some examples there and the game design document. So that is this bit here, which I can just add there, game design document or 3D concept board. That's what I'll call it. Choose a design and explain its appropriateness. This here, it's quite difficult to do this because I'm actually going to delete it. Like, to be honest, I don't think you need to do that because you can justify it later on. The intention of the standard is not that you come up with 3 completely different ideas and then choose like one idea, because it's silly. A lot of you have got an idea already and you're generating a range of design ideas from that. So I've seen you discuss all that stuff and choosing which is the most appropriate one. So you're going to model and test your chosen design. Model your design ideas out. This means that you need to test and check whether your ideas are feasible. And you can do that in Godot. So for example, Bix, you have been doing some stuff in Mudbox and it doesn't look like it's going to be unfeasible for you. Okay, it looks like with time you'll be able to skill up and develop it. You're focusing on something that's quite focused, so it's not like you've got 50 different character models that you want to create. You're focusing on one with a whole lot of different animations, and there's particular skills that you've identified. So that's what you need to discuss with that bit there. Check the end users understand how your design will function. That's a tricky one, but you may have to do some research into what your outcome is going to do, and will the people that use it know how to work with it. So if you've used a pretty standard tool like, I can't remember what it was called, you were talking about it to me in Unity, I think it's Mecanum or something, I can't remember, but the animation tool that's within Unity, people that are familiar with that are going to know how to use it. And so what your job would be to make sure that it works with that. And the same for other things. If you're creating a 3D asset collection, then you have to make sure that it actually works with the tools that people are using. You can't just throw a bunch of Blender models on the internet and hope that the developer can convert them from Blender to Unity or Blender to Godot. You need to have that done already. And game design, of course, is, does the game actually work? Is the user interface intuitive, etc.? Test that your design addresses the relevant implications. So you would have identified them. And I think probably a few of you would have identified usability, functionality, and probably aesthetics as well. Intellectual property and legal requirements. You should, I'm going to add this in because it is part of the external later in the year. Discuss legal requirements, even if you put it low on your thing, because maybe you're making your own assets, but you want to discuss those legal requirements, even if it just means identifying that you are creating your own assets, but also for you. So if you're going to put your things out on the internet that other people are going to use, then what are your legal rights? Because that's something that you probably haven't thought of. especially with game development, with asset creation. What are your legal rights? And you'll have to do some research about that. And use data from modeling and testing to further develop your chosen design. So you might go back and add some stuff to the game development document. And then lastly, present your design idea with annotations that show feedback on your design. So that's your game design document, your 3D modeling stuff. Keep in mind that I'm looking for evidence of this. I'm not looking for 50 pages, okay? I'm not looking for a massive amount of data, okay? I know that you're gonna be limited with what you can do at home. Lastly, justify. And this is what you need to turn in, okay? So that's what you need to turn in. I'm anticipating that it's probably gonna be within the realm of 8 to 12 pages, and that'll be with a lot of images as well, if you're able to get them. I don't know if that answers the question. I hope it does. It's kind of like you're level 3 now, so I'm kind of giving you a bit more freedom in what you are able to turn in, what you're able to create, and how you go about actually providing this evidence to me. No, you don't need to show the code. No, you don't need to show the code. None of this standard is about coding. None of it's about any of that. It's about testing it. So for example, you don't need to show the raw Blender model. You could just show a render of it if you've been testing some stuff in the Eevee render. You could, if it was important, show the wireframe and discuss different techniques that you used. That may actually be important, but for coding, unless you're discussing a particular technique you used in the code, you don't need to show the code. No, you don't. Are there any other questions? No? Cool. All right, so I'll stop this and then I'll get on to the Year 12 one in about 10 minutes or so. And I'm not sure if I'll do one tomorrow. I may not need to. If you have questions though, email me the questions and then I can address those questions tomorrow, so that you've got some answers to those. During the holidays, I won't be creating a whole lot of videos. We'll get back to doing this next term. But any questions that you have, I will answer. I won't answer them live. I'll just make a video that covers them. That way I can prepare an answer for you that's a bit more helpful. If you do have questions, please email me. You've got my email. We'll finish up there. See you later and stay safe.